for its underpasses. Governor Mark Dayton going to call a special session. You may or may not know this, but every single Minnesota representative and state senator is up for re-election this year, so there's a race here in Minnesota's 4th district, and the Republican candidate joins us this evening, Mr. James Leiman. He's a veteran as well, so let's start with that, sir. First off, thank you very much for your service, and I want to start here. You are now the city manager for the city of Ada. I think you've been there since, what, early 2015?
Yeah, that's correct.
So going on a couple years, you're running against Senator Ken Eakin. He's running for a 7th term. He knows the ins and outs of Moorhead, greater Minnesota. Why should we choose you over him?
I think you should choose me over him because I think we need a fresh perspective. Republican or Democrat, I believe both sides are entrenched through career politics. And as a result, I think cities like Moorhead, parts of Norman County and Becker County, they've all lost as a result. I think they go down there with good intentions, but the reality is politics gets in the way. And whether that's special interests or just what we observed with the pocket veto with the governor, I'm of the impression that you need somebody to go down there that's really willing to fight. You know, you talked about the underpass briefly. You know, in the Senate, you can amend every single piece of legislation that comes down through that chamber. You could do it. You can find ways to pay for it. And unfortunately, I don't think folks are doing that on behalf of their districts. And Senate District 4 is one of them. And that's precisely why I want to run, because I want to bring it to the next level.
So when you say that Moorhead or greater Minnesota are losing, what do you mean by that specifically?
Well, when you look at the statistics, I know 1/3 of the population resides outside of the 7-county area. But when you look at the programs that are geared toward economic growth and development, when you look at the programs associated with roads, bridges, and all of the requisite infrastructure, unfortunately, dollar for dollar, we haven't been positioned well. So when you actually quantitatively analyze it, it tells us a very different story. And as a result, even though these guys are DFLers and they represent the western part of the state, unfortunately, I think because they hold a majority in the upper chamber, they block a lot of good legislation that would be beneficial for our region. Perfect case in point would be the underpass. The House passed it. There was a bargain that was negotiated, and frankly, actually both sides own a piece of this, Republicans and Democrats. I think they're 2 for 2 with respect to the underpass itself. But at the end of the day, it's career politics, and that's what needs to change, and that's why I want to run. I've got some bold proposals I'd like to talk about.
But I think people would say, hey, there was a deal done before it was voted on the House. They were going to have the light rail in there. It made it over to the Senate. The light rail deal got pulled out. There was politics, fiascos going on, which I think would mean both sides. So what do you mean by the Senate didn't get it done? Or
3 minutes before midnight, an amendment was proposed. And there wasn't enough time for them to, one, vote on the amendment. Well, actually, they did vote on the amendment. They didn't do a roll call vote. They stood up. Not enough time to pass it back to the House. But prior to that, again, the Republicans own a piece of that as well. But at the end of the day, they spent 12 weeks down there. They utilized $120 a day per diem. They were paid. They had time to negotiate these settlements. And at the end, you know, the last 3 minutes is what it came down to after 12 weeks. That's the problem.
So how are you going to make it different?
Because I've got a lot of bold ideas that I think are beneficial for both parties, beneficial for the metro and rural Minnesota. And by going down there and actually executing something that everybody can agree on and put politics aside, I'm of the belief that somebody that leads on behalf of greater Minnesota coming from this region could actually make a change. And that's precisely what I want to do.
If you could put politics aside in St. Paul, call me, let me know what you're doing. We'll write a script for everybody. I want to give you the last word, sir, and just if you've got a website out there that people can find out more about you, and just the last word of, say, this is why you should vote for me.
I think you should vote for me for one reason. I want to do things that legislators have not done before, and that's propose things such as freezing the budget, and then over the next 5 years, taking the $22 billion, which we can capture, take that $5 billion and spend it on the capital projects that each side talks about. That's the underpass. That's fixing our institutions such as the MSUM institution. $6 billion for roads and bridges, $7 billion for tax cuts. We can do that today because the state budget has gone up 250% in 14 years since my opponent was elected. We can take that money, freeze it for 5 years, and we can capture the needs of greater Minnesota and the cities, and everybody will win because that is true. If you look at it, there's $21 billion we'd collect. $5 billion will go to capital projects, $6 billion will go to roads and bridges, and $7 billion go to tax cuts.
Your website again?
JamesLeiman for MNSenate.com.
And you spell that Leiman,
That's
correct?
correct.
So James Leiman, MinnesotaForSenate.com. Check it out. He's got a great background, incredible veteran background as well. Served our nation very well, so thanks for being here, okay?
Thank you for having me.
Stay with us when we come back. Let me know your thoughts, obviously, on all of the seats being up in Minnesota. If you got any thoughts on the Minnesota special session getting called, you can share your point of view with us right now. Call our hotline, text us, leave us a voicemail. Stay with us. We'll be right back with a bunch of great points of view from you.